Allan Cameron is now a solo artist, but at one point he was a member of SaltbushSix, Keith Urban's first backing band, and he has been involved in other musical enterprises. He has also released several singles over recent times, and the latest is the heartfelt Worn Out Australian Made. So we're going to have a chat about that and other things. Hello, Alan.
Hi, Sophie. Thanks for having me back. It's
It's great
really
to
great
see
to
you
have a
again. It's
chat.
been a little while, and you have been releasing some songs in the meantime, and I do have some questions about some of them. But I'm going to start with the new single because it's a bit of an anthem. And I was wondering if you first conceived of it as a big song. Because when I was listening to it, I thought, oh yeah, it's got these anthemic qualities to it.
Well, thank you. Look, it sort of grew into that. I just the idea um, of the being worn out, but still finding out that's a good thing. That's for sure. We'll talk more about that. But when I was recording it, that sort of started to grow, and I didn't want the main thing I didn't want the song to be was negative. I wanted,
Mhm.
even though it's the worn out, um, made, in the chorus it talks about being made for purpose and fit for purpose. So I wanted it to reflect that, that it's about getting up off the ground and,
Mm.
you know, working through it.
Yeah, because partly what's in the song is a line, I'm not worn out, I'm worn in. And one of the things I enjoy about that is language. So just by changing one
Yeah.
word, and not a very long word, you change out to in, that the meaning is really different. And what I like about what it implies is actually the importance of having experiences in life, of being someone who's lived a lot. And so, yes, that could mean you do get worn out because you're tired, but the worn in part is probably more significant.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I must admit, um, that was one of those when you're writing a lyric and you have that ding moment, little light bulb, and um, it really is the joy of songwriting that um, and it was I went through a few drafts too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it actually started out because the idea was that it's been a long musical career, and as you know, and we talked about in the other interview, we had some losses in Saltbush 6, and all of us went through COVID, so it was tough. And finding my way in the new age of streaming music,
Mhm.
it's and having to be on social media, and that has its upside, but it's a lot of work,
Mhm.
and I was feeling a bit worn down, and I think I honestly said to myself, can I keep doing this? Do I want to keep doing this? And the short answer or long answer of that was yes, I do. Um, the first draft of it was really talking about I've been looking a lot into my ancestry, and actually, I should say my wife Lynn and my cousin Deb have mainly been doing it. I always knew because my grandmother, my dad's mum, is Indigenous, was Indigenous, and we found out that she had an A1 and Dungari in her history, and so I've now I'm this history of Scottish English and and Indigenous and local mob sort of thing, and I'm really trying to delve into that and that was the first draft. Sorry, so it was just too personal, and all those words and the story. I then wanted it to be about general Australians and people.
So you're talking about the drafting process. Are you a songwriter who has always edited yourself? Like you've gone through drafts, or is it something that you feel that you've only recently been doing?
I do it more as I've grown, so it's happened more along the way. I've always edited, but now I'm a little bit. I suppose being around other great musicians. I was talking to somebody the other day, and uh, I saw Laurie Minson at a do for Greg Shaw, who was our manager in Saltbush 6 and Keith's manager way back, and took Keith to the States. I mean, he really got him into the States, and just being around those guys at this do for Greg that was just honouring him. And I sent the song to Laurie. I might have been one of the first drafts actually, and he was busy, and he said, "Oh, yeah, it's good," and I knew straight away I had to do some work on it. So, bouncing off other people, even if they don't say anything, just being around some great musicians. Um, yeah, just trying to. I'm learning more and more just to bring everything in and get to the point.
Well, and it's, I would imagine, a fairly ruthless art being a songwriter because you don't have many words to play with. You have a chorus which is going to repeat. So
Yeah,
you've got two, maybe three verses, bridge, chorus, and you have to keep paring back what you want to do. So in me saying that this is an anthemic song, there is quite a bit in it, but it's still following that structure. But does it feel ruthless in the moment when you are editing yourself and having to perhaps cut or change things?
yeah, yeah. Look, funnily enough, I'm working on another song for later in the year, and in my lyric book, I had to turn a lot of pages to get past all the drafts I've
Right.
worn out. So that was really interesting. So it was again, it was an exciting moment when I got so the that it had to be about and it was always about the Australian spirit. So the history, the millennia of history of Australians, and the more recent history of Australians. There is still this thing of us coming together and just still being Australians, whatever a lot of people are trying to say. Australia does make us who we are, and that was always the core of it, the kernel. And I suppose I'm just trying to think what in that middle part where the solo is. That's where I wanted it to really start ramping up to the,
Mhm.
this is a really good thing, who we are, and this land is the same. We're all here to dream, and we are Australian made. Yes, originally it was we're all hurt. That's not exactly it. That we're all a bit damaged. Uh, can't trying to think of the exact words, but we're all a bit damaged. So it was a back way. I was almost doing it a backwards way into the big chorus, and I realised that again that just I had to change the lyric because that's who that I don't know. I remember reading "We're a Weird Mob" when I was young, and I don't know what people would think of it now, but I still see it as the heart of who we are, and that we should be proud of that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a weird mob. I think, it's pretty, I
Yeah,
think it's important to own it.
yeah, yep.
So it sounds like you're a songwriter who works from lyrics first, and then once you have what you're satisfied with, then you'll add music to it. Or at a certain point, do you bring the music in, perhaps as a way of editing yourself?
I probably do it both ways. Generally, it'll be a title. Sometimes I'll get a chord, a riff, or a chord pattern, and then it comes from that. But generally, yeah, it'll be the title, and the title worn out, not worn out, worn in. I think worn in was straight away as well. Um, as soon as I wrote that down, that's I started to grow. Now it then took a little bit longer to write a lyric. I started doing the music before I did a lot of the lyric. I just had the title and the idea.
Right. Now you talked about it coming out of a period of questioning whether you wanted to keep releasing music, and being on social media. There is a lot, yes, for musicians to do these days. Are you reaching a point, or have you reached a point where you think of social media as just a means of connecting with audience, and it is a means that you have to entirely generate yourself? So there isn't a lot of help there for anyone, but it is perhaps a platform that can be great. Actually, it's you talking directly to your audience.
Yeah, look, I, one thing I'm growing into and not finding it just work is that connection part of it, but also finding how I want to do it.
Hmm.
That I remember, I, I, I don't know if I said this before, but when we were doing some recording with the later Saltbush, so after we'd lost Marlon and Hula, and we were, so Peter Clark and Darcy Crawford and myself, and we had our mate Ian Taylor, who's a well-known and amazing sound front of house guy. But he's a good guitarist and a good mate. And so he came in and played some bass on the recordings. And that's when I started pushing, knew I had to work harder at social media, because we'd come out of the first album, we were thinking about hoping to do another one. And I tried everything. I threw everything at the wall like you do. And, I remember doing a day in the life of a muso thing, so coffee, exercise, practice, uh, going to actual band practice, and then a gig at that night. And I was rather proud of it. I'm not sure, but then you also feel like a bit of ingenuous. I feel like a bit of a fraud, and I found my own. I think you got to find your own stick, whoever you are. And my stick, I know, is mainly creating music. So, I'm posting more and more of performances, old concerts even now. I'm really proud of. And yeah, look, with the single, I because I've built up some momentum. I'm not burning the world down by any means, but um, yeah, the responses from people has actually blown me away.
Yeah, because I think social media does give the audience the opportunity to communicate with artists, whereas previously they could only ever come up to you at a gig if they happened to be at one, or they could write you a letter, put it in the post, and hope that it reached you. But yes, I was looking at your social media and saw quite a bit of guitar going on there, which I think is a great tactic because there are a lot of people who love not only to see guitarists at work because they're guitarists themselves, but I tend to think people just love to see other people at work because it's
Yeah.
fascinating. If it's something that you're not actually doing yourself, then it is really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think so. And obviously, there's a whole lot of showing off. And you have to, I walk that line between, oh, it's got to be impressive, I suppose. But I also don't want to do 50,000 takes to have this
Yeah.
perfection. Either. So, and I think that um, I was speak. I was on drop the name. I was speaking to Tanya Kernigan this week, and we chatting about it, and she made the comment, that she thought what I was doing was good because it is being people are seeing me now,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I take that as a real compliment because Tanya is absolutely what you get is what you see, what you see is what you get, and I love that about her.
Well, and if you love guitars, and then you want to show that, and this is leading me into asking you about how many guitars you have, because I did see a clip, I think it was from the latest song, where there were quite a few guitars. I thought, all right, well, how many does he have? So, how many do you have, and do you have a favorite?
I just it's just over 40. Um, no, you favorite. That sort of changes. Yes, I probably do. I don't know if you can. This is so this is
So
a
for those who are listening, not watching, there is a beautiful
uh,
yellow guitar on screen.
so this is a Paul Reed Smith Swamp Ass special from about early 2000s. I'm not sure of the year, and I've played it a lot. It's done a lot of miles, but it also became the SaltbushSix guitar. It just suited the look. It suited the sounds I needed to get, and it's actually become more special because of that. And
Right.
I look at there's some footage popped up the other day. I'll have to try and track it down of SaltbushSix. We did the first festival we did as a band. We played the old Impy, the Imperial Hotel, for 9 days straight. Did 11 shows, and it was that. Well, I probably said this before, but it was that year where it was 45 degrees, and it was that baptism and fire. And I see me playing that with the boys, and yeah, it warms my heart a little. So, but yes, the Paul Reed Smith.
It's a lovely looking guitar as well. When you're choosing a guitar now, given that you have a few, is it a matter of a particular wood that you're interested in, or perhaps it's just a different tonal sound that you haven't found before?
Yeah, actually, that's funny because I posted a social media thing the other day with all the different timbers because there is a bit of a thing going on now of, you know, keyboard warriors, whether it's the wood makes a difference, the wood doesn't make a difference. No, look, if something's pretty, really nice piece of wood, that'll attract me. But I have to sit down. I'm not a guy who mail orders, or sorry, clicks to buy guitars. I need to touch them.
Mhm.
I need to sit with them, how it feels, and then how it sounds. So how it feels first. Okay, how it looks first, because otherwise I'm probably not going to pick it up. And then how it feels to actually play the neck, the resonance of the body, and how it resonates is a really good indication of how well it's made, that it's got a really good neck to body join. So you can actually feel it vibrating against your body. And then when you plug it in, that there's something special there, and exactly what you say, where it's a slightly different tone to what I've got now. So mainly for recording, but for gigs as well.
I would think the timbre has to make a difference. How could it not?
I look at yes, yes, I agree.
No,
I
as
think it
you're talking
does.
about the keyboard warriors saying, "Oh, timbre doesn't make a
Yeah,
difference." I'm thinking, well, it's a material, and any tool. If you think of a guitar as a tool, it's a tool
yeah,
to produce music. Any tool, the materials it's made out of, they affect it, how its performance, I guess.
yeah. Look, and some of them quote. There's all these scientific tests and that's all about the pickups, because they're like the microphones. So how could it matter? And yeah, I don't see it, because I've got very similar guitar. I've got a few Stratocasters, and they're all exactly the same woods. Um, Actually, that's not true, but you know, they sound like Stratocasters, whereas that Swamp Ass Paul Reed Smith doesn't sound anything like that. So
Right.
I agree with you.
Well, now speaking of guitars and you playing one, you did release an instrumental track last year called Waxing and Waning. And you've talked about your songwriting process when it comes to songs with lyrics. But I'm wondering what the process is like when you're writing an instrumental, because obviously you don't have the lyrics to help you express what you want to. So do you start from an idea, or is it that you get like a musical phrase in your head and you just want to pursue that?
Yeah, that's mainly just from playing. So that song came out of, I've been experimenting more and more with open tuning on the acoustic. So, you know, where um, it's a chord just by strumming the open strings. So open D or open G. There's many others, um, and that's been something that's really refreshed music for me a little bit. So that really came from just trying things out, learning how to form the chords, because all the chord shapes are different, where the notes are is different, and you know, it's one of those new things that hurts your brain a bit at first, but is so fulfilling once you start grabbing it. So yeah, that came out of that. Um, Open G tuning, if anybody's interested, and I've, it's then just sitting down and then growing the idea, so that obviously it's, you know, you can't have just one pattern. It needs, like any song, it needs to lead to something else. Yeah, so that's a new thing for me, really. My biggest problem with music is I'm way too eclectic anyway, so I am trying to pull it into this more. We'll come back to country, you know, where I tend to go off on tangents every now and then. But I'm loving trying to speak with the guitar, whereas normally I just literally speak with my voice, you know.
Yeah, well, particularly if you are experimenting with open tuning, which to me sounds like the devil's playground, I
Yeah.
have to say. But as you said, you can tune the guitar in several different ways. So that suggests that you could go off on all these explorations, and they still would probably fit under the country umbrella. In that, I think a lot of country music audience is curious. They're interested in different sorts of music that come under that umbrella, because they can see that it's really about the artist and what they're trying to express. And if they're attached to an artist, then they're interested in what that artist is coming up with next, even if it's not traditionally country.
Yeah, I look, it has grown, and that one is, I suppose, pretty mellow and chill. The I did get a pretty good response from that. One of the new things I've been experimenting is trying to get onto playlists. So that's a new rabbit hole that it did actually get on some playlists around the world. So um, it does speak to people. I hope to keep keeping write more instrumentals that
Mhm.
will also fit in with what I'm releasing with vocal as well.
Now, still on the guitar theme, in 2024, you released a song called Grandfather's Guitar. So that suggests to me that this runs in the family.
Ah, yeah, I never really thought of it too much. Like, mostly when people say, are there any musicians in your family? I say, oh no. But yes, seeing it's my grandfather's guitar. No, I remember him playing on top of Old Smoky, and won't help the listeners again, but that's another um,
Yeah.
show and tell. I still have the grandfather's guitar.
Oh,
It's an old, I think, 40s or 50s acoustic, and it played like a dog when I got it. It's high action and I didn't care. It was beautiful. So yeah, he and there was a piano in their house as well. I I I can't even. I think my grandmother might have played it when she was young, but
right.
there was no playing in my lifetime. But I bashed on it, and so yeah, the fire. Even before I got the guitar when I was 16, I already knew a bit about notes and was hearing. I'd worked out how to play some chords and all that sort of stuff. So it's amazing. You don't think about it, but that influence was really strong.
Well, and you also wonder whether just the instruments being there kind of signifies to a young person that this is allowed, this is an activity that's going on or has gone on,
Mm.
and it may be something that you could take up as well.
Yeah, I think so. That's a weird thing. It was only when I went out to the farm at Nimingar outside of Tamworth and I'd get to play around with it because we didn't have enough money for any instruments or anything at home until I inherited that. Um, I, 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 I think I never thought I'd be able to have an instrument myself, so I never really thought in that way. I loved music. I played along to records with air guitar and Lego guitars and at home. And I started writing songs before I got a guitar too, just lyrics and making up melodies in my head. But I, su- I suppose, I'd have to give my sister even more credit because she was 8 years older than me and had a huge record collection before I even had a record. So I think that hearing lots lots of and I'm jumping around here a bit, but when I was younger, everything was on radio too. You know
Mhm.
that, and everybody bought every style of record because of it. So in even in my sister's collection, there was Bread and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Neil Diamond. And you'd be hard pressed to find somebody with a collection that diverse anymore. I I think that's I'd have to credit my sister with really giving that fire to me.
Yeah, it's interesting that point about a collection so diverse because I do think streaming probably has narrowed people's taste because it's offering up more of what you're listening to in the same
Mm.
vein as opposed to that understanding that if you love music, then if you really love music, you tend to have eclectic taste because you're interested in all sorts of music.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I'm playing gigs, like money-making cover gigs, where I maybe do a couple of originals, but I'm mainly playing covers, um, I do. There is a little thing starting to happen with the younger crowd that they're obviously delving into back catalogs, and whether that's dissatisfaction with AI and auto tune, and I think maybe that is it.
Hmm.
So wow, I was playing at Broncos Leagues Club last night, and one of the barmen um, grabbed me because I did a Stevie Ray Vaughan song, and he said, "Oh." I nearly shouted out because everybody always does the same stuff, and I love Stevie Ray, and then he said, "Do you do any country?" Well,
Do I?
yeah. So I did some Slim Dusty and a bit of Lee, and oh, one American song. And funnily enough, he didn't really like American country too much, which is just amazing to me. This is Broncos in the middle of Brisbane. Um, he may have been from Ipswich, so that's a bit country, a bit of a country boy, but
Yeah.
um, he would have been early 20s.
Well, that's encouraging, Alan. Especially
Yeah, I
the bit where he
know.
didn't like the American country. It's like, great.
Yeah, well, it was the bro stuff, I reckon. And
Right.
to be fair, I think a lot of people have sort of started to walk away from that a bit. But because I did know I do occasionally do Jason Aldean, and he pretty well turned up his nose when I said that. So sorry, Jason. I know you've still got doing very well.
Well, look, he can keep doing well in the United States of America. I think it's a
Yeah.
bit of Slim and a bit of Lee is
Uh,
great to have it a set list. Something that you may not be playing at this time of the year is a Christmas single, but I did note that you've released a couple. So have you long been an aficionado of the Christmas song?
yeah, the first band I was in Tamworth was a band called Cornerstone Rock, and it was a gospel rock band.
Mm.
And this was a guy called Tom Galbraith, and Gary Adams, and they were in the New England Rangers, who were a really well-known band around Tamworth, sort of late 70s. And out of that band, they came into this band, and from because we'd met in church, and we were doing a mixture of some covers, but then also writing our own gospel rock sort of songs and doing a bit of what was it? Bob Dylan had just put out his Christian album, so Slow Train Coming and stuff. But sorry, getting to the story, I really loved a guy called Randy Stonehill, and he was a Christian artist at that time, but he had grown up with Glenn Fry, and he did some co-writes with him, um, and he had a Christmas song, and it was a really moving song. So this late 70s, uh, yeah. So always had that in my heart, and I was never able to write them. So it's these last few years I just went, I'm going to do it. I've got to put
Right.
one out, and I've ended up putting a couple out.
Are there more? Are you planning to put one out this year?
I think it might become an annual thing. The only thing I want to do, what's happened in the past, and this is where my eclectic taste comes out, because I do want my, I don't want to say brand, but that when you go to listen to me, it's not too shocking, which it can be sometimes. Um, the Christmas songs have just sort of happened.
Mhm.
They have just been what they were, and that's their sort of uh, adult contemporary, big ballady, big rock, almost rock songy. And I want to write something that does sit with worn out
Yeah.
Australian made and father's eyes and grandfather's guitar. Where
Hmm.
that uh, a bit more laid back and my acoustic side, really.
Hmm. Well, that sounds intriguing. And you have a few months, which is
Yeah,
May.
no, there's a trouble. I always leave it to the last minute, so I'm panicking to get that window of 5 to 6 weeks of getting it up ready for streaming, etc.
Well, Alan, I reckon if you start writing now, you'll be right on
That's what I should do. That'd be very well organized for me.
time. Well, in the meantime, we do have one out, which is your latest single, and I'm going to let you go because at the time we're speaking, you've already played a show, you've been driving, it's a Sunday night. So, Alan Cameron, thank you very much for your time. It was great to speak to you.
Thanks so much, Sophie. Same.